Cool. So hi girls, welcome to this webinar. We're going to be talking about carbs and sugar. We're going to see why we love them so much and whether we should stop having them or not. Okay. So first things first, what exactly are carbs? We're going to start by talking about carbs, and you will see that at the end of the row, there are basically the same. Okay, so carbohydrates. They don't need to be scary or off limits. Usually when we talk about carbohydrates, we think, oh my God, I have to cut my carbs. I'm eating too much carbs. I'm gonna gain weight. I'm gonna get fat. What are carbs? Well, if we see it as food, carbs is everything that's bread, pasta, rice, oatmeal. Vegetables are carbs, fruits are carbs, sweets are carbs, all of those are carbs. So you have to understand that carbs, they are our main source of energy. So that's why I get really frustrated whenever I see someone recommending people to stop eating carbs at all. Okay, we should not. Like my belief is that no diet should ask you to not eat one of the macronutrients. So let's just rephrase this. Macronutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, and healthy fats, or well, fats. So a balanced diet should contain the three macronutrients, all right? And carbs are the main source of energy. Our brains, our nervous system, they use a lot of carbs, a lot. They need glucose. We're going to talk about glucose later, but just so you know, carbs, when they enter our body, they are transformed into glucose. So chemically, carbs and sugar in our body, it's exactly the same thing. It's glucose. So if I take a pretzel and I take a candy bar and I take a strawberry, chemically in my body, this is going to be transformed into the same molecule, which is glucose. Okay. If ever you have questions, please let me know. Now, I already said you eat your strawberry, your banana, your piece of bread, your cake, anything that's carb or sugar, it's going to get converted into glucose. The glucose is going to enter your bloodstream and the pancreas is going to release insulin. Okay, so insulin, it's an hormone that it's going to make sure there is not too much glucose in your bloodstream. All right, so the function is she's going to be like, let's say she's like on God and she's waiting for glucose to go through the bloodstream, and she's going to grab it. Now, what is insulin going to do with it? There are three choices. Either insulin is going to grab glucose and put it into the cells to be used as energy, which is called ATP, or it could be storage in liver and muscles in the form of glycogen, or it could be stored in the form of lipids in adipose tissue or fat. Okay, so first it goes and it's converted into energy, ATP. Second option, liver and muscles. Third option, adipose tissue. So when we have too much energy levels, good, liver or muscles, good, then there's no other choice for our body than to storage the excess of glucose as adipose tissue. And that's when we gain weight, or well, we gain fat, okay? Now, not all carbs are the same. I did say, strawberry, banana, cake, candy bar, bread, oatmeal. These are all carbs and sugars, and these are all glucose, chemically speaking, but they are not going to behave equally, okay? There are simple carbs, which is everything that's super refined, like white sugar, white bread, white pasta. And there are complex carbohydrates like starches and fibers, like all the vegetables, sweet potato. These are also carbs, but they are loaded with nutrients and fibers. So this, whether it's a simple carb or a complex carb, is going to determine how quickly we digest, absorb, and how we use them in our bodies, whether we use them for energy or whether we store them for fat. Now, there is something that we call the glycemic index, which is a measurement that's gonna measure how fast the ingestion of a certain food will elevate your blood sugar levels. Okay, so the table is here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. However, you have it on your emails. Yeah, I think it's good. So you have starches, vegetables, fruits, dairy, and proteins. Because I forgot to say, dairy, there's also carbs in dairy. Like lactose, it's also a sugar molecule. Okay. So for example, let's take baked potato, 85. That's a glycemic index. Let's take an apple, 38. You see the difference? So higher than 70, those are the things I'm not going to tell you to avoid, but I'm going to ask you to be mindful of the fact that they're not the best. Okay? Medium GI, it's good. Low GI, it's great. So the low GI carbs are the ones you want to have more of in your diet. All right. So let's say you see beans are good, kidney beans, lentils, those are great. Low fat yogurt. Almost all the fruits, it's of course the dates are super sweet, so the glycemic index is super high, but use this as a reference, okay? And as I said before, it's not that you are not gonna have certain foods, it's just that you have to be mindful of the fact that they react in your body different ways. So the higher the glycemic index, the higher the spike of blood sugar, and the lower the crash. So you're gonna get a high. We're gonna talk about this later a little bit, but the higher your GI, the faster your blood sugar is gonna spike, and everything that goes up is gonna come down. Shoo! All right. So that's why sometimes you have sugar and you're like, yeah, I have energy, and half an hour later you're like, oh my God, what just happened? It's just that your blood sugar went up and then it crashed down. Great. Now, let's talk about sugar, okay? So remember, we have carbs, and one type of carbs, the most basic, the less complex, and the simplest carbs is sugar. So sugars, they are natural components of our diets. We can find them in fruits, vegetables, and dairy products, like I said before. And as I also mentioned, our body is gonna convert sugar into glucose, and it's gonna use them for energy. So in moderation, it's good because they provide us with essential calories. Now, refined sugar. So the whiter, the worst, okay? White sugar, white rice, and everything made out of white sugar, like candy, lollipop, cookies. I know they're delicious. I know, I love them, but refined sugar. So this product, it's highly processed and is derived from sugarcane. So they're typically found as sucrose, and sucrose, it's a combination of two molecules, which is glucose and fructose. And the body metabolizes refined sugar super fast. So as I explained before, super fast means high, down, okay? Now, the average total intake of sugar among Canadian adults, it's approximately 110 grams per day, which is equivalent of 26 teaspoons or 21% of a total energy intake based on a 2,000 calorie a day diet. This is a lot, and we're gonna see why. We're gonna see what's the recommendation from Diabetes Canada. The recommendation is to limit our intake to less than 10%, which means around 12 teaspoons of sugar. Ta-da! So we just said we eat a lot of the average Canadian is gonna eat a lot of 100 grams of sugar per day, and the recommendation is half that amount, okay? Now, sugar is so powerful that some people can become addicts. And when I mean addicts, it's not that you're gonna, it's not to the point where you're gonna be like, oh my God, I need sugar, but you're gonna have certain behaviors that they're not normal, okay? Example, if you ever hide sweets or snacks or sneak to eat them, let's say you are in a social gathering and you're just gonna hide some sweets in your purse and then you're gonna go eat them in the bathroom later or when you get home. You feel you need more to satisfy the craving. Let's say you had your dessert, but then you're like this, you're like, I think I need more, I think I need more. And until you like, you need more in order to feel calm. You make excuses for eating more sugar. There's always a good excuse to have another dessert, another piece of cake, another cookie. You reward yourself with sugary foods. Let's say you got a promotion, the meeting went well, you did a workout. Okay, let's have 2 cookies. Yay. That's no. You find yourself trying to stop eating sugar, but you can't. And this is very important because we should be able to control this. We should be able to say, okay, next week I'm not gonna have sugar and I'll be fine. But some people try, and because it's become a habit and because you don't realize it, but you are quote unquote a little bit addicted, when you actually set yourself up for the challenge of not having sugar, you have a really hard time and you fail. Okay, so if ever you have find yourself feeling one of these, or you know someone that have one of these behaviors, maybe there is a little bit of an addiction right there. Sometimes we feel weird or have unusual symptoms when you stop sugar. So it's not even that you fail when you try to stop, you actually feel sick or you have a headache. It's like caffeine for me. I have a caffeine addiction. I know it. I live with it. When I don't have coffee, I have a headache and you cannot talk to me like I don't exist. It's awful. And I know I need to correct that, but I haven't. Okay. So some people have the same behavior with sugar. So this is the perpetual cycle of the sugar addiction. You eat your sugar, you like it, you crave it. Yummy, yummy. Woohoo. Gets into the bloodstream, it gets converted into glucose, and there's also something else that happens. Dopamine is released in the brain. Okay, dopamine, it's a neurotransmitter that it's responsible for energy modulation, mood, motivation, pleasure seeking, and sexual desire. Dopamine is related to, let's say, when you have if you are into social media and you have a like and you have a comment, it's like, there's a dopamine release. So it's the same thing with sugar. Okay, you have your sugar, you love it, you crave it, dopamine hits the brain, it feels good. But then what happens? As I said before, everything that goes up is going to come down. So your blood sugar levels are going to fall super fast, okay, because there is a spike and there is a crash. You're going to feel like tired, sad, maybe a little bit down, depressed. So what, oops. Oh, sorry, wait, there. So what do you need? Well, maybe you think, okay, so what did I do to feel that high before? Okay, I had sugar. Let me do it again. And then you start over and it never stops. Okay, sugar is super powerful, guys. And I'm talking about refined sugar. I doubt that you're gonna get this cycle if you have 5 strawberries, which is also converted into glucose. Why is that? Because of the glycemic index that we spoke about before. Okay, the higher the glycemic index, the more part of this addiction cycle it's gonna be. Good? Okay, now we should be able to determine how much sugar we eat per day. Okay, let's say, do you have sweet treats like when you go to Tim Hortons? Do you get Timbits, or do you put cream in your coffee, like this whipped cream, or do you add sugar to your coffee? No judge. If you say yes, it's okay. I just need you to be aware. Okay, do you have Coca-Cola, Sprite? Okay, Timbits, they're here. I'm hungry. Do you have granola? Granola is healthy, but there's sugar in that. Do you have cereals, fruits, the coffee with the whipped cream? Do you have white bread? Do you have barbecue sauce? Did you know there is a lot of sugar in barbecue sauce? There is sugar in things that are not sweet. We're going to talk about this, but just imagine that. Ketchup. Ketchup, guys, that's like sugar. Campbell's tomato soup, lots of sugar. Salad dressings, sugar. These cereals that are marketed to our kids, full of sugar. And I was the first one around 5, 6 years ago, maybe a little bit more, no more, like 10 years ago. I would love my cereal every morning. Okay. So why are the food companies adding sugar everywhere? Well, it's very simple. It's because you want the taste to be better and you want to make it last longer in the shelves. That's it. Okay. So particularly in the 90s, I think it was, there was like a whole campaign of fat free, fat free, fat free. So what happens when you take away the fat from a product, you need to add something to compensate the flavor. And what they would do is add sugar. So every time you go out there and you see fat free, look for the ingredient list and make sure there is no sugar added. We're going to talk about that in a second. Ingredient list. So is it written when you buy your ketchup or your tomato soup or your salad dressing? Is it written? Well, by law, it should be written, every ingredient, unless it's like I think it's lower than 1%, you don't need to write it down. But if not, you must write the ingredients. So here, tomato soup ingredients: tomatoes, water, high fructose corn syrup, salt, partially hydrogenated soybean oil, blah, blah, blah. So you must say, well, there is no sugar there. However, this little guy here, high fructose corn syrup, that's sugar. So this brings me to my next point. There are many names for sugar. Okay, sometimes you're not gonna see sugar written down like that, SUGAR, in your ingredient list, but you're gonna see one of these. Okay, high fructose corn syrup, maple syrup, glucose syrup, any kind of syrup, molasses, coconut palm sugar, maltodextrin, honey, dextrose, maltose. And as a tip, a word ending in OSE is usually sugar. So from now on, just please try to look at your ingredient list and just make sure there is no sugar if there's not supposed to be any sugar in that product. Something else super important, the ingredients are listed in order of weight, which means the first ingredient, it's gonna be the one that's more present in your product. So for example, in the tomato soup we see before, high fructose corn syrup was the third ingredient. Imagine. So there is an example here. Bran cereal, ingredients: whole wheat, wheat bran, sugar / glucose, fructose, blah, 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 blah. So this product, there is a lot of sugar in it. And I'm sure there is an alternate product that tastes just as good, where sugar is not as present. Okay. So why are we so concerned about sugar? Why? What's going on? Well, excess consumption of sugars can lead to tooth decay and excess calorie consumption. Excess calories will lead to overweight and obesity. And obesity is a risk factor for type 2 diabetes, some forms of cancer, and cardiovascular disease. Okay, so it's not even just about gaining weight or looking a certain way, it's really about our health. Health Canada recommends a healthy eating pattern where most sugars come from fruit, veggies, and unsweetened dairy products such as plain milk or yogurt. Other sources of sugars can increase calories without benefiting our health. Why? Because yes, remember I started by saying, carbs, everything, it's carbs, like all the fruits, all the veggies, all the sweets, all the bread, all the oatmeal, all of those are carbs, but not all of them are gonna make our body react the same. So if you're gonna have carbs, make them be the quote unquote good carbs. I'm not gonna demonize the other ones, but just make it into your head that some of them are better for us than the others, if we see it in a health spectrum. Okay. Public Health of Canada has reported that in 2017, 64% of Canadians over the age of 18 are overweight or obese, and about 30% of children aged 5 to 17 are overweight or obese. So this is something to think about. I don't have kids. I don't think you do either, girls, but maybe you have a sister or you know people that have kids or teenagers at home and you see them giving them just candy because, you know, it's okay. It's just a candy one day after the other. So we just need to, you know, it needs to click in our heads that it's not only about weight or how we look, it's about our health. Because we already said that obesity is a risk factor for several health issues. Not only that, but this is super interesting. So, refined sugar also affects the brain. It impairs the brain's ability to heal after trauma. It inhibits memory formation and retention, and induces structural changes in the brain similar to those caused by amphetamine, cocaine, and nicotine, powerful stimulant drugs. And this is all science-based. I could give you the source if you need to. Something else, hormones. Refined sugars, they have a negative impact on our endocrine system. It's gonna stress your adrenal glands, which regulate cortisol, which is known as the stress hormone. And it's also gonna regulate aldosterone, which controls your blood pressure. And refined sugar is also gonna have an impact on your thyroid, which is responsible for the secretion of hormones responsible for maintaining your metabolism, cognitive function, and body temperature. Okay, so brain, hormones, and also your DNA. Did you know this? Sugar causes the shortening of the telomeres in our DNA, accelerating the aging process. So the telomeres are the end of your DNA. So let's say you have, you know, like your shoelace, there is like a something that protects it. So the shortening of the end part of your telomere, it's gonna accelerate your aging process, and sugar does this. And as I said before, this is all science-based. I could give you the source should you want to. Now, what can we do? Are we just not gonna eat sugar ever again? Super hard to do, don't even try it. So my recommendation is to read your food labels. Look for the ingredient list. If you go to a restaurant, then try to, well, restaurants are closed now, but if you order takeout, go through the menu and try to go try to avoid the high sugar options. Try to stop or limit your intake of sugary drinks. Try to track your sugar consumption if you feel you're having too much. Maybe you're good, you don't need to track it, but if you feel that maybe you're having too much sugar, try to track it, and remember 1 teaspoon is around 4 grams. Instead of adding sugar to your oatmeal or cereal, how about you add some fruits? Berries are great. Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, all the berries, super great. Limit highly processed foods. The more processed, the more refined, the worse it is. Enjoy fruit as dessert instead of cookies. Cut the amount of sugar you use in your recipes or switch it. So instead of adding refined sugar, go for natural sugars like honey and maple syrup or what's the name, agave. Be mindful of the condiments. As I said before, ketchup, barbecue sauce, lots of sugar on those, lots of sugars. And I actually saw in the supermarket the other day, they now have I don't know if it's sugar-free or low sugar ketchup, which is good, or you could use mustard or hot sauce. No sugar in those, and super good. And actually, just try to stay away from as much as you can from everything that comes in a bag, in a box, or in a can. Limit those. Don't make that the bulk, the bulk of your grocery shopping. My challenge for you is should you accept it? Next week, how about we have a no sugar week? So next week, okay, it should say next. Could we try not to have any source of refined sugars? Yay. So refined sugar, let me remind you, all the sweets, patisserie, ice cream, even if we can go like avoid white bread, everything that's super refined, cookies. That's my challenge for you for next week. And I'm not gonna end without saying this. You have to remember every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. And eventually you will become your habits. So I'm gonna stop the recording and we're gonna go to the Q&A. Let me stop.